Not quite there yet. All right. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome aboard. We're going to give Megan, we need to wait about 3 more minutes to, we weren't supposed to start this until about 7. So I just wanted to make sure we were ready to roll. To mute it in the background so that it's getting feedback, playback. So thanks for coming to do this. Pretty excited to hear all about your experiences.
You're welcome, Steffi.
The program's really changed a lot, so pretty pumped to ask you all about it, actually.
All right.
Very, very beginning, just because I had a number of people ask if this would be available for playback. So since it will be, I kind of want to, just in case we got people who aren't very familiar with dressage, we'll just touch on some real basics about what that is and then go from there. So yepers. So I got all my screens up so I can kind of watch things.
All righty.
Or at least I'm gonna try to not get totally distracted.
Okay. All right.
No, it's not quite 7 o'clock yet, but I see we got a few people. Welcome, everybody. We're just going to go ahead and wait a little bit longer since we started this just a touch early to make sure our cameras were working and everything. So there is a live chat feature. If you want to ask questions, you can go ahead and post in the live chat if you are logged into YouTube. There's super chat and super stickers available. If you want to support the channel, you can go ahead and look at that. And if you're interested in doing that, go right ahead. But encourage anybody who has some questions, go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and I will do my best to get those in front of Megan and ask her what you're thinking. So, but I want to welcome Megan from Lindinhof to this stream tonight. Really appreciate you doing this. I really do. I think this is going to
be everybody.
So say hi, everybody. Say hi, Megan.
Hi, everybody. I hope I can answer everybody's questions. This is new for me, so I apologize in advance if I'm a little bit awkward at first. So be patient.
Hi, Dawn. Say hi to our friend Dawn.
Hi, Dawn.
Dawn is on. We're just 7 o'clock. So basically what I thought I would do, Megan, is we'll start off with just a very brief introduction to what is the sport of dressage, as much as you want to talk about that, but it's for people who maybe don't really know anything about it, either don't have horses or don't really know what's going on with the sport of dressage. We'll talk very briefly a little bit about USDF, and then I can start kind of asking you a little bit more about the program. So.
Okay, super.
Sounds good. So we look smashing. Thank you, Dawn. Appreciate that. Yeah. So, okay. So anyway, this is Megan, as I said, from Lindinhof. Appreciate her time tonight to do this live stream. Don't know how long this is going to take, but we both decided we'd have the evening available to do this. So we'll get right into it. Again, I encourage everybody who have questions to go ahead and use the live chat feature in YouTube. You do need to be logged into your YouTube or Google account to use it, but feel free to do that. We will do our best to address any questions you have. So Megan, for people who have no idea what the sport of dressage is, obviously we're talking about horses, but what, in a very short synopsis, how would you explain to people what dressage is and what you do? And I keep it short if you want, or take as much time as you want.
Okay, dressage. It is the foundation of all riding. For me, basically, what's most important is obedience and development of the horse's muscle and the development of their physique, and making the horse with the exercises stronger, fitter, and healthy. And so for someone who may not be in the sport of dressage, you can combine sports such as ballet, figure skating, as well as yoga and strength training for the horse and rider. Just to put it in layman's terms, we do have what we call the training pyramid that has different levels and a foundation, and we like to study that bottom rung, which is rhythm and tempo. And so the horses all have 3 gaits. The walk has 4 beats. There's the trot who has 2 beats, and the canter has 3. And so that's our foundation. And developing the correct tempo and picking the correct tempo helps balance our horses better. We go on to the second rung, which is suppleness, and exercises like circles, serpentines help us develop suppleness. Yeah.
So how does one recognize suppleness do you mean in yourself, or do you mean suppleness in the horse, or suppleness between the two of you?
That's a great question. Both. We both need to be supple. Our horse is an athlete, and we require them to be an athlete, but we should also be an athlete. And so we therefore need to be in balance and supple as well, because we're basically a backpack. And if anyone has ever carried a backpack on one shoulder versus the other, over time, our bodies develop maybe stronger on one side and weaker on the other. And our horses do the same. And the whole goal of the sport of dressage is to become better balanced, move freer.
That's really a great analogy, the backpack, and that we're a backpack, because I mean, who hasn't, as a child all the way through, carried some sort of bag full of books on your back? And you're right. If you don't carry it centered, you definitely develop strength more on one side than the other, a real imbalance. So that's a really great answer to that suppleness type question.
And I really truly believe horses are our mirrors. Yes, horses are asymmetrical, and so are we as riders, and we're wanting to be in perfect harmony together. However, actually it probably only takes 2 weeks, but let's say some partnerships last 15 years, and it becomes a marriage, and that horse will mirror us. So if we're tense, our horse is going to be tense. Not all the time, but generally, yeah, our emotions are brought out into the horse as well, and our weaknesses as well.
Right. So we can get back to, you were talking about the pyramid of training, and what we're on the second from the bottom, we were on suppleness. Yep. So do you want to go ahead and finish that?
Just a quick, brief synopsis. It's hard to explain without the horse in front of you, but ideally, even for the rider, we want to study these basics. And so we work on suppleness. The next thing we focus on is contact. And without the first 2, we are not going to be able to develop contact. And that's the contact from the hind legs to the horse's mouth, as well as on the bit, from our hand to the bit. And that the horse is able to carry this connection through their top line. And then our fourth one that we focus in on is developing schwung or elasticity, what we see in the show ring or in the warm-up. We're always drawn to maybe 1 or 2 horses. That horse is able to develop the cadence. And then straightness. Are our horses straight? It's ironic that it takes till the 5th rung on the pyramid, that's straightness. So even though we're starting with a horse and we think it's straight, it really takes many years to develop.
A horse doesn't just start off walking, trotting, and cantering straight?
Not at all. It's kind of like when we walk our dog. They're not walking straight, and the horse also walks that way. And through, let's say, 8 to 10 years to develop our horses from training level to Grand Prix. We can't go to the drive-through and order the Grand Prix horse. It takes, even when we buy a school horse to teach us how to ride, it takes years to develop that partnership. And we have to learn. Yeah.
You brought up a couple of things there, and for people who don't understand dressage, there are levels. You just brought up training level and Grand Prix. So this definitely relates into the instructor program. Can you very quickly explain what the levels of dressage are? The terms and what they're called, and what the bottom is, and what all the way to the top.
And so basically it's like any of us who have gone to school. We have kindergarten. That's our intro level. for a horse as well as a rider. So that's like walk, trot, and I think they introduced canter into it now. But when I started in the 80s, it was only walk, trot, and it was introducing kids, adult amateurs, horses to sport and getting them out. Then we have training level. Well, I guess there's pre-K, so maybe intro level is pre-K, and then you have kindergarten, which could be training level, so that's walk, trot, canter, and just being able to ride our horses on contact.
And what do you do? What do you do? Do you just ride around the ring, or do you?
No. So we
Are there
have
figures?
There are figures, and we also get tests beforehand that we can study. And usually it's a mirror because you want to see walk, trot, canter in both directions. And then at training level, it's basically a circle and changing rein. And as well as in the walk and in the trot, long and low. Can you change the frame of the horse? Can he stretch down and then can he come back up? And just like in school, we have first level through fourth level. So basically it's first level, would it be? So we have first level through fourth level. And again, it's like going to school. We're going to each grade and we're learning a new thing.
You're building upon what you learned in last year's grade.
Yep. And you build, each level builds for the next level. And
so it's not like I could take my horse and learn how to do training level and then just say, I don't want to learn first and second or third. I want to jump right to fourth. You can't skip, right?
Well, technically you can. You can sign up for any level you want. However, you may not be successful. You may, and just like in school, you get a score sheet back and an evaluation, and you may get a 20% or a 40%, and that's not ideal. However, we are looking for ideally 70s. That would be a great score. However, when I started riding, I was looking for a 65 in like the 90s. I was thrilled with that. And also as you go up the levels, it's harder to get higher scores. Realistically, getting a 70 at Grand Prix is hard. You know, a 7 at each movement is hard. And also knowing the scale of judging, which is the L program.
Right.
That's another program that USDF offers.
Right. And that's, I mean, we're covering a whole lot of stuff here just to try to get through the basics of what dressage is to even be able to get into the instructor program. But let's quick finish the levels and then we can kind of start in a little bit more about the program, I think.
And so after our highest national level is fourth level. And then you go on to international levels, which can be shown nationally in the United States. It's governed by the FEI, which is international, and it can also be competed at CDIs, which are international shows. So there's also different levels. So like maybe a CDI could be like college. However, at the national shows, that can be high school for people. And just as an analogy, but you cannot be successful if you do not ride the basics, the training pyramid, if you do not read the purpose of each level and are able to execute it within the show ring. And then down on the test, there's directives that tell you specifically what the judge is looking for. And so in order to be successful, it is best to go from training level first, second, third, fourth, and then on up to the Grand Prix. And so in the FEI levels, there's pre-St. George, there's I-1, which is usually we call the small tour, and it's the building blocks. However, they now have created 2 more levels, intro A and B, but they didn't have that, 7 years ago. And then you have Grand Prix, which is called the big tour. So, and then the other thing is you also have freestyles that you can do with these levels as well. And you have to exhibit all the things that you do in each level. in order to do the freestyle.
And I think touching on the freestyle, I think this is what a lot of people who maybe don't follow really dressage, but they might catch it on TV. You know, in the Olympic years, they might see the 3-day eventing where they're running around doing cross country. They might see a little bit of the dressage tests, and then they see the show jumping. But in the actual upper levels of dressage, they might see, a lot of people get drawn to the musical freestyle. And so that's what we mean by freestyle. Is it a test that you just ride to music, or do you just create something and just show the movements? Maybe you can quick touch on that, and then we're going to get into the program.
Okay, sounds good. So a freestyle, so for each level, there is a freestyle for not pre-St. George, but so what we have is required movements and non-required movements. So if you're riding a first level test, USDF will, if you go to their website, you can find out what are the required movements, and then you put them in the order that you prefer for your horse. And so what's best is knowing your horse's strengths and weaknesses and setting up a test, a pattern that will present him in the best way. And then you put music to it. There are different ways of doing that. I highly recommend a professional to design your music and to work on the choreograph with you. So
Sure.
They're all required. And if you do movements that are higher than your level, obviously not Grand Prix, but higher than your level, you will also get points taken off. So you have to make sure you know your level, what are the required movements, and then put the music to it.
Sure. This is great. So that kind of is a very fast and loose and free, quick explanation what the sport of dressage is. But again, so our national governing body in the United States is the United States Equestrian Federation. However, the USDF, United States Dressage Federation, is the head of the sport of dressage. So they have a program they instituted. It's been a number of years now. It's the Instructor Certification Program. And so this is what obviously we're going to be talking about tonight. And can you explain what the goal is of the program as best you can?
Well, first of all, to improve the health and training of the horse, to educate our instructors who can better educate our riders, who I hope we impress upon the quality of training and the health of the horse. We're advocates for the horses. That's first and foremost, in my opinion. I hope that the program produces great instructors, as well as standardizing our quality of riding across the total U.S. That's the goal, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like I said, the program's been around for a while, but it has definitely changed over the years. I became involved in the program, I can't even tell you how many years ago, to help put on some workshops in my area. And so maybe we can talk a little bit about what actually is encompassed in the program. Like for someone such as yourself, an instructor / trainer, what do you do if you enroll in the program? Do you just show up someday to a horse show and ride around? Or so just a very quick synopsis, and then we'll get into more of the finer details.
Sure. So you could just go to a testing. They provide testing, and that is at different levels, and that has changed. Currently, you can test out at training and first level, and that's one.
Combined.
And that's combined. And then you can test out at second level, and then it's third and fourth. So there's three testings that I have tested out on.
And it is true that you have to test at the lowest levels first before you can move up to test at a higher level, correct?
Correct. You cannot pass any of them. You have to start at the bottom, and you can only do 2 levels at a time. So you can't go for one weekend and test out on all three, and I highly recommend not doing that because it is very, very stressful. Even if you studied for years and you know your stuff, it's hard. Also, they just opened up testing for the FEI, and that's new.
That is new, isn't it?
Yeah,
Very
I'm looking
new.
to get into a workshop, and I would like to test out through the FEI, but we'll see how that goes. So, but besides the testing, the USDF also puts on workshops, which you are familiar with as an organizer.
Correct.
And what I highly, highly recommend is anyone who's an instructor that is not certified, and they want to become certified, go to the workshops. Go. I learned so much, and I learned at the very beginning in my 20s how much I did not know, a lot. And I'm so appreciative to the USDF for helping me become better organized. Just simply there. I mean, it's not that you go there like a university and you become educated. That is your responsibility to study the books and the methodology, but also studying under people.
If you are enrolled as an instructor, actually enrolled in the program, so there's homework, there's required reading. Can you touch a little bit on what that entails?
Sure. So you actually have to fill out an application. And then for each level, so let's say you're just applying for training in first. I'm not exactly sure you need to look at this on USDF, but you need to have references, people you've worked with. You have to have students that have shown and put their names down, show their show scores, yours as well. And then there's, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of reading material. There's manuals, USDF manual. So there's a lunging manual. There's a teaching and instructor manual, besides a whole list of books that they recommend that you buy and read. I highly recommend it. I found it very helpful, and realized I started the program in my early 20s. I don't remember the exact age, but so that's years. And I went to the first course of workshop. And do you mind if I just go on to pass the book? Is that okay?
Go right ahead.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
And it's a lot. It's very intimidating. You have to speak in front of people. You have to be organized. And let me tell you, in my 20s, I was not. I hadn't even talked in front of a microphone. Lyndon Gray, Lilo 4 were the instructors there, and thank God. And I think Jane Ayers hosted, and so we were very fortunate to have her knowledge as well. And however, people are auditing, and so everybody is listening in, and you're trying to give a lesson, and you want to do a good job. And it was the first time I had actually spoke on a microphone, and let me tell you, it was hilarious, because I would say something and then I would judge myself. I didn't need anybody. And I was like, oh my God, that was terrible. And then it was like 2 minutes of nothing. And Lyndon was like, are you going to say something? And I'm like, I don't want to say anything anymore. And so it was a reality check, and it was really, really good. And so I left that going, oh my gosh, I need to get it together. And as well as the organization, I was not organized. And so for this program, you come in, and there's let's say it's just for the teaching, because we should also discuss the different workshops, the different type of workshops. But you have to get an assessment. Well, actually, first you have to check the TAC. And if you don't pass the TAC check, you fail. You go home. You don't get to practice. And that's important, because that's number one. We should be advocates for the horses as well as the riders, and safety should be more important than anything else. And so that's number one. Number two is our assessment. We get 5 minutes. That's it. That's not a lot. To watch someone walk, trot, canter, go both ways. and have an assessment on their position. What are we going to do with this rider? What's up with the horse? You know, is the horse sound? That's first and foremost. And then what are its strengths and weaknesses? Then we have, you know, maybe 25 minutes to give a lesson and really show what we know. And that's hard. The first lesson, I think, is so hard. You know, we don't know these, and we aren't supposed to know them. We're not teaching people we know.
I think about any time I've taken a first lesson with any riding instructor or clinician, neither one of you know each other. And so it is really hard for both, because neither one has, you know, you have expectations, but you don't know each other. So that has to be quite difficult.
Yeah. And then
so the workshops, you don't have testing though. The workshops is, would you call that kind of getting your feet wet in preparation for testing?
I would consider it a test. It's an evaluation. Okay. For me, it was the first time I wasn't getting paid, right? Because that's an evaluation. I teach a lesson and get paid, so people come to me. But this is the first time someone is evaluating my teaching. And it's my teaching, it's my methodology, my turnout, my safety check. You know, did I have my act together? And to me, it was a great wake-up call. And I loved it. I learned a lot. And going back to, you know, we only have 25 minutes and then we end and we have to give an assessment. And we have to, you know, and what is our future goals with this horse and rider? And that assessment is for each of the workshops, and that's also the way we are tested. And so, yes, the workshop is not the testing. It's a totally different field. But for me, I don't test well. Testing for me is intimidating. It always has been. So for me, it's hard. And also to be evaluated for the first time. And everybody wants you to do well. I think that's the most important thing I learned out of this program. I met a lot of great people. I met a lot of great mentors that I will always have as resources. So when I'm sitting in my arena and going, I don't know what to do, I can call up my examiners. I can call up my workshop instructors and say, I need help. And they'll help. I think that was really wonderful from the program that I'm thankful for.
So let's take a step. So let's just talk, like I said, about the very first level, which is the training and first level workshops and certification.
Yep.
So you've spoken to the teaching side of it. There are two other sections in that first level that you as an instructor will need to show your aptitude.
Correct.
Can you speak to both of those as well? Because they're very key, obviously.
And actually, I think there is 6 exams altogether. For
the first, for every testing level, or for the training and first level?
For the training and first, because so breaking it down for the workshop, you have 3 different workshops. You have a lunging workshop. It's lunging the horse, and it's lunging a horse and rider, giving a seat lesson.
There's 2 different lunging sessions there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the workshop is lunging, but you're being tested on 2 things. Then you have the teaching one, which you teach 2 students, 2 different students.
Who you've never met and you don't know.
Correct.
And now, would you know the horse possibly, or do they want you knowing nothing about the horse or the riders?
Nothing. Ideally, you know, I mean, it's hard too. We can talk about the testings as well. But then you have the third one, which is riding 2 horses, and one they would like you to know, and one you don't know. So a familiar horse and an unfamiliar horse. And so if you go to a testing, you're tested on 6 things. That's a lot.
It is a lot. And how long is the testing? Is it 2, 3, 4 days?
So my first testing was 3 days. And I had 2 levels. It was training and first, and then it was second level. So I tested out on all of those. And so that was 6 Actually, it's more than that because you also have a written one before you get there. You have 2 written ones, one for training in first, and then you have a written exam for second level. And then when you get there, you have to have a verbal exam. So that's about 45 minutes, and it's usually with the group. So if there's 5 instructors testing out, so you're all sitting in a circle and you are quizzed verbally, and that's really hard.
Wow.
And then if you pass all of that, you get to move on to the testing, the lunging, the teaching, and the riding. And so, yeah, it took 3 days, and it was exhausting. And so that's where, if you're doing it for the first time, maybe you're not confident, I suggest just doing 1 level.
Yeah, that sounds intimidating.
It's very intimidating, but also, I think you have to have dedication, and I think it's so worthwhile because once you go through it, you're so much more confident in yourself and what you bring to the table. You know, I mean, yeah, you can ride, you compete, but to be able to do this, and you join a really special group of people who have shown dedication, because we don't have to do this. I've had many different discussions with people, and some people disagree with me, but in order to be whatever you consider successful, you don't really have to take part in the program. However, I wanted to be certified. I wanted to push myself. I want to be better educated. I still do. Even though I'm certified through 4th level, I don't know it all. I would go through the workshops again. I want to host the workshops because anyone coming up through these, you know, a new instructor that wants to be certified, I can learn from. I mean, that's what's the beauty of this program, is it's not perfect, but it offers us so much, and it really will help set the standard, I think, in the United States, and that's what we need. And so I really think the group that has become certified is dedicated instructors, and they want to continue learning, and that's really cool.
So a question from the audience from Dawn is it like the British Horse Masters testing, or like Pony Club levels, or how, well, I guess the question is, what would you compare this to?
I don't know, because I never.
I think the British, well, I think it came from the German Bereiter, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess it did. However, with the Brighter, you have to study 3 years and 4 years under
Master.
a master. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess it's probably formed after the Germans.
Germans, and I think definitely the British have a very similar program. You know, obviously their own program, but they do certify a lot of instructors as well. Have a friend.
But I think the difference is, in Europe, in order to teach and to ride, you have to be certified. Whereas here in America, you don't.
Anybody can hang a flag out the door and say, "I'm open for business." Sure. Yeah, that's interesting. So thank you, Dawn, for the question. Appreciate that. And just a reminder, anybody tuning in, if you're logged into your Google account, you can go ahead and post your questions in the live chat, and we will try to cover them as best we can. So I kind of want to get more into the workshop. So obviously, as we talked about very briefly here, I helped organize them, and it's definitely been a number of years ago. I feel like it's probably been 8 years ago, but you know, things have definitely changed in that regard. But are there, you touched on that, you know, you need to bring a horse, because when you're tested, you need to have a familiar horse and an unfamiliar horse. Is there, obviously, you know, you're bringing your horse and your tack, but, you know, you brought up in this initial first 2 levels of testing, which would be the training and first level test, you've got a horse to lunge with a rider, the 2 riders, you know, on their own horses. I assume you don't know, but then you have to ride a horse, you know, and then you have to ride a horse you don't know. So were you able to bring the horse to ride and use that horse for your lunging horse? Or because I understand, if we can touch a little bit on the lunging, I understand the lunging is actually, everybody thinks lunging a horse is very easy, but from what I all remember in being, auditing and hosting these workshops is it's not as easy as it sounds.
No, it's my weakest phase. I think it's most people's weakest.
So most people know how to lunge a horse. Don't you just wheel it out, slick it with a whip and go, yeah, get on with it?
No, it should be like riding a horse. It takes years. The horse needs to be balanced. You need to be not moving on this, you have to be standing in one spot. That's very hard to do. Why? Because how are you going to lunge a horse on a circle? If you're moving around, you're not your horse is not on a circle. I hate to tell you this. And then you have to have a whip.
So an egg is in a circle, like an egg?
No. And you still, just like riding, you still have to drive the horse to the contact. Lunging a horse, I think it takes great skill and practice. I'm still working on it. And just imagine lunging a horse with a rider. That's even harder. And you have to be teaching someone. And you have to, give an assessment at the very end. And so for the workshops are great because it's an evaluation, and the faculty that comes can instruct you and can give you advice. And let me tell you, the ladies that came, and I've gone through 2 different workshops, 2 different sets. And I'm glad I did because after my 20s, I needed to go and teach more and ride more and gain more experience. I mean, that's the big thing. You need to go and gain more experience, life experience. And so I came back, and then I had good reviews, and the instructors had recommended that I go to a testing, but then there weren't any testing sites. So that's the other thing is, first of all, we need to hug anyone who is an organizer who puts it on, because it's a ton of work.
It is.
Finding
it is
horses.
A lot of work.
And a lot of people do want to show up and not bring horses. Some people also, we live in the United States. So, and there's not a lot of testing sites. So someone in Florida who wants to test out, but there's a testing site in Nebraska, maybe they can't bring their horses. So that's a problem. And so, and most dressage riders don't want to share their horses. So that's a problem.
Very true.
We really need to be realistic. We also need to be realistic on the quality of the horses that are being brought to the workshops, as well as the testing, because some of them aren't qualified. Some of them do come up lame, just like any horse show, but some of them are just simply not qualified. And so, and that's just being realistic. And that's the whole point of the program, raising our standards, and our expectations. So finding horses that lunge, I think is hard. And being able to bring your horse there is hard. So, we all have to work together to put on workshops and testing sites. Same thing for riding, and people who volunteer. Thank God for the people who volunteer their horses, that they put themselves on display for us to practice, because that's hard too. Because sometimes there aren't very good instructors in the program that go into the program, and it's the job of the faculty to educate them, and the volunteer it may get a bad lesson, but we thank you, because if we didn't have that bad lesson, we won't improve. And we need volunteers that will bring their horses to let us practice on. And so the faculty then steps in and says, you missed this, or you did a good job here, or what about this exercise? And then we get an evaluation, and we're able to discuss it. It's also an open group. There's auditors. There, as instructors, we all get to discuss it. I'm not sure we're expected to watch, but I think you're expected to watch.
Well, I know when I did the organizing of a series of them. Yeah, the participants, which would be the instructors enrolled, were seated in a certain section, and they were expected to watch, and oftentimes were spontaneously quizzed.
Yeah, And so that doesn't happen at the certification. There are no auditors. There is a scribe, there is an examiner, and obviously there is the person that we're teaching or the owner of the horse that we're going to ride, and that's it. And so for people who are organizing that, that's a lot of work, and the volunteers that put that together, and we need horses and people to do that. And so putting on those programs is a lot. It's a lot.
So as far as organizing, I think this is a great point, and I experienced it when I organized them. So if you look at, we'll just say that for a workshop, we'll say you have 8 participants.
Yep.
Okay, that's a full workshop. So if you think about it at this first set of levels, which is training and first level, you need a horse they can lunge for the horse to lunge. You need a horse rider they can lunge, which is possibly another horse, second horse. You need a horse to ride yourself. That's the third horse. That's an unknown. You need a horse and rider to teach riding off the lunge as well. That's a fourth horse. And that's per participant.
And sometimes the horses may get used twice. You know, if they are physically fit and can, but the majority sometimes can't. So that's added up.
And the horses need to be comfortable, especially at the workshops anyway, being in front of a crowd, which is like, it's basically like riding in a clinic situation or a show situation. They have to be safe and sane and capable of dealing with this whole group of people piled up at the end of an arena.
Yeah.
And from what
microphone.
Yep. And from what in the microphone and the speakers and strange people and a bit of commotion. And from what I experienced, and they feel that electric atmosphere. And what I experience is that sometimes you expect horses that are really well behaved at a horse show, and they show up and they just, it's like it's a totally different atmosphere. So
yeah,
and then they walk off the trailer lame.
Yeah, and the instructors are nervous too. I mean, that's the other thing. We're human, and you know, we're there to learn as well. And so the horses are going to feed off our nervous energy too. It's only normal to be nervous. And so the other thing, though, I mean, I never want a horse lame, but I don't look at it as a bad thing when things don't work out. So in my testing, one of the horses was lame. And so to me, that's a good chance for me to express this horse is lame and to show what would I do. I don't think, you know, as an organizer, and as someone who's volunteering their horse, we know horses go lame. But it's a great opportunity to then present, like, how would I talk to this student? How do I explain to, maybe they don't even know their horse is lame. Maybe they have been riding their horse lame. You know, it's not their fault. They didn't know. So now this is an opportunity to come up and say, hey, I'm watching you go, and I think your horse is lame. Do you notice it? And if they say no, then explain to them why, and then to recommend them get a vet. That happened. And so then it gave me a chance to show the examiners, first of all, how I behave. Am I a professional? You know, and then could we immediately switch to something else? Because then I had to go right into another exam, you know, and to be able to switch and to see that I can carry myself in a professional manner in real life is very important. So that those things happen, but hopefully not to everyone at you know, all the horses.
So let's back up a step. We've talked addressed a little bit about the riding and the lunging. Let's talk about, you brought up safety. There was a couple things that we glossed over. For one, I want to talk about first aid, and two, I want to talk about equipment safety. So can you just let everybody know, you know, you've talked about had to do studying, and then you, I believe, would be required to have your Red Cross CPR training?
Oh, yeah, I forgot all about that. Yes. So we do have to have certification in CPR. Yeah.
And it has to be maintained annual, or I think our certification is 2 years, but you have to maintain
Every 2 years. Yeah.
certified, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And then when you're either at the workshops really or any of the testings of the pre-certification, the pre-testing, what is the expectation for the participant as far as, I mean, you're kind of given this tight time frame, but you are expected to evaluate not only the horse, the rider, but to make sure that the tack fits, the tack is safe, correct?
Yep. Yeah. So in my experience, I was introduced to all of my riders and the owners, whether like for lunging, if it was someone else's horse, or I brought my horses. Let's say it was for riding, because I had to ride someone else's horse. They tacked their horse up, or I did, but it's my responsibility. So I have to check the horse. Actually, I think I tacked my horse up, but I let the students tack up their horses. So I could feel their legs. I'm expected to put on the equipment. And then if the student puts on the tack, I need to check it. Is the bit too low in the horse's mouth? Is the saddle balanced well? Maybe, the reins, the stitching on the reins are coming undone. So you should have plenty of time to check that. And if it needs to be changed, change it. And you should also bring extra tack. So especially if you're coming to a certification, you should bring your own lunging equipment. Maybe some extra saddles or even a bit, bring it, because this is real life. And then if you've changed something, or let's always ask the owner, why do you do this? Maybe there's a reason. And then when you present the horse, you say, here's the tack, I've changed this, or I don't like this. However, this is not my horse and I don't feel comfortable changing it. And you allow the examiner to make that decision. That's their discretion. And so you give your reasoning, and then you go from there. And if it's unsafe, then you fail. But if you've explained what your thoughts were, and or even tell them it's unsafe, but I don't know what to do, there you go. I mean, you should know what to do in the testing, but that's something to bring up in the workshop. What do you do?
Right.
The other thing we forgot to explain too is that there's the 3 workshops, but then there is offered a mock certification. So it's kind of the mid-level, and I highly recommend that. I don't think I would have been as successful if I didn't participate in that. If you don't go to these workshops and you don't go to the mock testing, I think you're nuts, because they tell you everything and you learn, you become better organized. They tell you the expectations. It's like reading the directives on one of the riding tests. You know exactly what's expected of you, and then you go in and you do it, and then you will pass. And
Right.
I adhere to what I've learned. I've learned a lot. I have heard some people just do the testing and then they go off, but no, everything I've learned and the things that they require, I think are important. It's just simple as that.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent points. Yeah, back to the safety. When I hosted them, and I hosted the workshops plus the pre-certification, I never hosted an exam. Even as the hosting organizer, I brought equipment because inevitably stuff breaks. Stuff breaks. It's horses, stuff breaks. You have a stirrup leather that breaks. You get a side rein. Like you said, somebody's rein, the hitching's coming undone. Somebody's bridle piece, breaks at the last second. And it's just, it's like it always happens with horses. Same thing with going to a horse show, pretty much. You always know that you got to have some backup equipment because inevitably something might go wrong. So
it always happens.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's interesting. So, what else about the training, the very first level of testing, which is the training and first level, when I organized, and I'm not entirely sure if they still do this, but we had sessions every morning where, before any courses were involved, where the exam, well, I don't examiner, we'll call him the instructor, the faculty member who is teaching the workshop, did a question and answer session with the participating instructors. We may have watched video or a PowerPoint or, flip through some sort of slide presentation. The last few workshops, have you done that? I call it like the classroom section would be what I would call it. Did you have a classroom section for the workshops?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Is that through all the levels then?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hosted a 3rd and 4th level workshop, and yeah, we all sat down and we had great conversation. That was last year. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I just wasn't sure how far they carry. It has been a number of years, obviously, since I've organized one. So I know they're continually updating and modifying, obviously, the program. They're always learning and adding to it, changing things a little bit, looking to, make it more and more successful. So that's, so that gets eliminated, obviously, in the testing and the mock testing or pre-certification, obviously. But that's good to know that they continue to do that. So let's go back to, we'll take a step backwards and talk about the assigned, is there assigned homework that you need to turn in before, before the testing? Let's say you've gone through your workshops, you've applied for the testing.
Yeah.
Is there like an at-home quiz you need to take?
Yep, there's an at-home quiz that you have to take. Yeah, it's probably about an hour long. It's all sorts of questions, not just on the training, but also basic horse health questions.
That's actually a great point to bring up. You're not just being quizzed on what you know about lunging, what you know about riding, and what you know about teaching, but they do delve into horse husbandry, basic care of horses.
Yeah.
And that's covered. So did they touch on that in your workshops as well? Did you find that they touched on that?
I honestly don't remember. I don't think so. I think we mainly focused on the lunging, the riding, and the teaching. I don't recall that, but it was many years ago.
It probably would get wrapped up into simple discussions as to whether the tack fits, the horse's feet look okay, feet are too long to be riding right now, something like that. Things like that for sure. It's good to know. So for the testing, the at-home stuff, were these open-ended questions, like where you had to kind of write in how you would handle a situation? Was this like true, false, multiple choice, or were they more like what I would call an essay exam from back in the college days?
They were all 3. So you had true and false, you had multiple choice, and then I think like the last 4 questions, you had to write in your answer.
Okay. Now, did you need to prove or explain how much of the was it required reading, or was it suggested reading, or was there a mixture of both?
I think it was suggested.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm sure that's a little hard to track, but
Yeah. And there were also modules. I forgot about that. We so USDF has Fast Track or E-Track.
They did. Yeah, they morphed it and kind of changed it, but it's like their university teaching section, right?
Yeah, and so there were 3 modules that I had to watch. And then there are questions after, and I thought it was great. They're really good. I think everyone should participate in
And the
them.
nice thing is, through doing that through their website, you log in under your member login, and so they know that you've done that.
Yep. Yep.
They know you've completed it. They know that you've passed it because it's graded. So they know that you've actually completed the steps, which is really nice.
Yep. Yeah, I recommend it for everyone, especially during our lockdown time. Get on
Great.
USDF and learn. It's great. There's so many great opportunities.
Yeah, they have a ton of information. So that's really interesting. So you've gone through the workshops, the mock or the pre-certification, the mock testing, the fake test, the preparation test, whatever anybody wants to call it. How would you say, does that differ a lot from the actual exam, or was it pretty much the same thing?
No, it was different.
It was different.
It was different. Yeah, in the testing, the examiners are just asking you questions. In the mock testing, they can still help you and do and kind of guide you. So if you're struggling, the faculty will guide you. In the testing, no, and nor should they. It is hard. People ask, it is hard, and it is meant to be hard because people do fail and people do pass, but you earn it, and the examiners want you to pass. They want, just like judges do, they want you to ride your 80% test, however, it means something when you're certified, and they ask you questions if they need to, but no, you're in the testing. You should know your stuff. You should own that arena. You are the instructor, and you should go up there and tell them, this is watch for 5 minutes, give them your assessment, teach the lesson, ride the horse, lunge the horse, give the assessment at the end, and then you walk away and you're graded. And you don't know. They don't give it to you right there. They make, and it's great. I actually pulled out my test just for preparation. I mean, I get this. It's huge. This is on one thing. It's not even all 6 of them. And you get, this one is blank. And you can see like who rode, the age of the horse. I mean, it's very thorough. And after 30 days of the testing, you get this back. And you get to see, and you're graded just like a test. And now you know things you have to work on. It's fabulous. How great is that? So, yeah. But it's totally different. The testing, as it should be, it is an exam. And then you do know maybe at the end of the day, especially if you're trying to test out, they will tell you if you've passed, but that's it. There's no details. You get that in 30 days, as it should be.
So for the pre-certification being different from the exam, at your pre-cert, did they pull anybody who was doing the pre-cert aside and do that like oral quizzing where they like you said, they put you all in a circle and they kind of just gunned you with questions, and everybody had questions to answer and you all had to.
Yeah, I think we all I think we did all sit around, but I don't think it was to that extent. Like it was a freer, like a conversation, but it wasn't basically the ones that, well, for my lower level ones, there were more people. For my 3rd and 4th level one, I was the only one testing out. So that's kind of intimidating, that it's just one-on-one. You're being quizzed for half an hour. It's so much better to have that semicircle and you know, then you, but also that's a problem too, because we all have to answer the same question. And so if someone says it brilliantly and you're like, well, that's what I wanted to say, you still have to add something to it.
Yeah.
Because
That's tough.
I think what's really important too, anyone who's thinking about becoming certified, you need to remember those examiners don't know what's in your head. And this is your only opportunity to show them what you know. And
Right.
they don't assume. And if you don't show it, you don't verbalize it, then you're not going to be graded on it.
They
And
don't know
so,
you know it.
yeah. And
Right.
I can tell you, as someone who is not good in the testing, my nerves get to me. Practice. I practice. I'm lucky, you know, Jane Ayers is right down the road, and at that time she had her own facility, and
Mm-hmm.
I was able to practice, you know, call up another professional and ask them for help, and take on a student you never had and have someone judge you, you know, and that's where the workshops come in. But I needed help with that even before the workshops. And the other
Mm-hmm.
thing is it all sounds logical and easy, but really we need time. Young instructors aren't, they need more time. You need that time to become better riders and to be able to verbalize, and you need that experience. So take the time to develop yourself. I can't stress that enough.
And I think as a young trainer, you know, we'll just say somebody under the age of 30, you need to develop the trying to think of the word I want to say, but your confidence, because like you said, you don't get a long time to explain things. It's a time deadline. You have to be confident enough in yourself to come up with these answers and to be able to articulate things in a fairly quick amount of time. So
Yeah, and the one person
kind of go, let me think about it for 15 minutes. I'll get back to you. You don't get to do that.
yeah, and there is one individual that when you're thinking about joining the program, you really want to get to know is Kathy Robertson. She's done so much work for this program, and she's come to every one of my testings. I have pelted that woman with so many questions, so many emails, and I'm only one person, and she's been awesome. So
Yep.
I can't thank her enough.
She was fantastic. So obviously it was many years back, but when I helped as an organizer, she was my contact. And she, like you said, I inundated her with emails and phone calls. You know, I had so many questions, and she was fantastic. So she is, for those who are tuned in here, she is an employee of the USDF and heads the program. She's kind of the head coordinator of the program. So she coordinates with the faculty, and then obviously she coordinates with the organizers and the participants. So it's a tremendous program that she kind of just coordinates it all. It's just impressive what she's done with that, and it's a big job. So for sure. So we talked briefly. There are you've mentioned it a few times. There's manuals. Now, are the manuals only for the first, like training and first levels, or are there manuals available through USDF for like the second level and then the third and fourth level?
No, it's one manual. Same thing with for the lunging, and there's a teaching one.
Okay.
I don't know. It may be different now. I mean, I got mine in my 20s, so that was a long time ago.
Well, yeah, they've updated the manuals, but
Yeah.
you don't buy new manuals each time you go up a level to
No.
test. Okay.
No, I bought all of them then, and they apply to all of them now.
Yeah.
And so it was a very thick manual, and then there was a teaching manual, and then there was a lunging, and then all the books. So I bought whatever they recommended and read them all.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember actually when I started with the hosting, the first manuals came and they were kind of just, they had been copied off by like a printer, and then those little spiral binds, you know, you can kind of add and subtract papers. And then they actually, towards the end of it, they had they'd made a lot of really great updates, and they were actually more of like a booklet, printed, almost like a printed book.
Mm-hmm.
Really nice quality manuals to have. And like you said, they're applicable at all levels. So that's good to know. I wasn't sure. I didn't think that they had additional manuals for the higher as you moved up, but I wasn't involved with anything beyond the training and first level workshops.
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't think so. And I still use them today. I still share them. I have working students that I'm encouraging to go through the program. And so I let them look at my manual. I'm teaching them how to teach. And, I've also expressed many times that I'm more than happy to help my colleagues in the area, and they've reached out to me. And so I share everything I have in hopes to help the horses. We need to all stick together as instructors and grow the program so that way we have better horses and riders.
For sure, for sure. And you brought up a really good point. This country is so huge. Let's talk a little bit about the testing. It seems to me when I've looked on USDF's site, there seems to be a much easier time finding a testing if you're on one of the coasts. In the Midwest, I'm in the Midwest here. That definitely makes it a challenge. You mentioned if somebody wanted to test and there was a test in, say, Nebraska and somebody lived in Florida.
Yeah.
So that's really a challenge. How truly challenging is it to locate a testing for the levels? Now, training in first level, obviously being everybody has to pass that first. Did you find there are like more availability of testing at that level than there are as you go like second and then third and fourth? Or was it truly challenging on all aspects?
Wherever there is a testing, any level can test out is my understanding.
Okay.
So when I went to my first testing, there were multiple people testing out training through fourth level. Let me think about my second testing. There were multiple people at my second test site. And so wherever the test site is, they will take all people, all levels, except, it's only training through fourth, and then the FEI is separate. But I know for many years there wasn't a testing, so I actually would have tested out sooner if I could. Oh, the other problem is I'm a competitive rider as well, and so monetarily, whether I could afford one or the other. Well, I always pick competition over, the program when I'm younger. So it's hard to balance, and also the location. And many years, it was mainly the coast, and I did get lucky. It was in Wisconsin in 2018, and then the testing last year was in Omaha, and so I was very lucky to do 1 year training through second, and then the next year stay on my high and go on to my third and fourth. I'm glad I didn't wait. And this year I really wanted to go to the FEI, but I was on the West Coast and they only had one FEI workshop in Florida, and I picked competition because it was a unique opportunity for me, whereas this is a lifetime of studying. And I also hope to host my own workshop this year, but unfortunately due to the virus, I don't think I'm going to have that opportunity. And last year the same thing. So I wanted to be a part of a third, fourth level workshop before I tested out. There were none, so I hosted my own, so that way I could be a part of it. So
So would you encourage people if they're having trouble finding a place to enroll the workshop or finding a place to do the testing? I assume that you wouldn't have been able to actually host the testing because you were wanting to test, but clearly you host the workshops.
Yeah, I am going to continue to host in the future. I've told Kathy that I am happy to host if she has a number of people that want to be a part of a workshop, that I would always host at my facility in Wisconsin. I really believe in the program, so if I can give back at any time, I'd be more than happy to. I don't know if I could host an exam. You need 2 arenas. Hopefully one day I'll have another arena. But you also have those factors as
That's
well.
interesting. That is a very interesting point you just brought up. They need 2 arenas for the testing. That I can see why that would be a challenge to find facilities that could hold these. Because
Yeah.
maybe in the summer you might be able to get away with using an outdoor and an indoor, but facilities that have 2 indoor arenas available, that's challenging.
Very.
Especially to be able to take those 2 arenas offline for whatever their personal purposes are for 3, 4 days.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and I think it's a lot of work for everyone, because instructors have to take those 3 days where they could be making money, they could be spending time with their families, they could have a vacation, and then you have lovely organizers like yourself, what is the benefit? You're doing it for us, and all the people that bring their horses to take the lessons. And let's not forget about the faculty. They really believe in this program. I mean, they sit there for hours in the cold judging us. And I bet it's a thankless job because we're nervous. We forget to thank them, and they do just as much as everybody else. So,
Definitely.
and Kathy at the helm leading us all. So, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a big program. So you bring up some interesting costs. Obviously, there's a cost to enroll in the program. How does USDF handle that? Is it a cost per workshop, or is it an overall cost? Like to do 3 workshops, it's X dollars, and then to do the certification, it's another, and then to test. How do they handle that? Is all of it handled through USDF? Is some of it handled through whomever?
It's all
the
through
testing
USDF.
or the workshops?
Yeah, it's all through USDF. So you write the check to USDF. For me, it was per workshop. It was per testing. Each level is a test. And then also, if you don't pass, you have to do it again at a different test site. And so that's another cost. And then obviously per level is a cost. So it's financially, it's a lot.
It kind of sounds like showing, because you have the cost to enroll, your entry fee, we'll call it, and then you've got your travel fees, traveling, hotel, food, all that, obviously. And then, there is no coaching anybody at this, like a coaching fee at a horse show.
Nope.
Definitely is a commitment as far as monetarily, but that's interesting. So wrapping up the training in first level, as the foundation of the program, do you have any takeaways from that initial experience? Just thinking back to that initial experience.
On the testing,
yeah, well, just that whole program, the whole training through first level, that was your introduction to this program as being the foundation. Any takeaways on that before we go into the second level and the third and fourth level? One.
It's hard. You think it's training in first level and you'll breeze right through it. It's hard. It's our foundation, and it should be. The lunging is definitely the hardest. You should practice. And
I feel like we should touch on that a little bit more, because I remember that from organizing, and there were a lot of people that did not understand or take that seriously. They were kind of like, how hard is it to lunge a horse?
It's hard.
It was hard.
And everybody should. There's actually a video, Gerhard Pulitz, on the track on the USDF. Everyone should watch it. It's very thorough, it's very logical, and it's hard to do. Practice.
So what did you find difficult? Was it, I think what I found that most of the participants that I watched in the program where I was organizing, they couldn't stand still and they wanted to wander all over the arena. That was, I think, the first problem they had. And then I think just being, you have two hands and you have to organize your equipment in your two hands and be safe about it. I think that was the second most difficult thing for them. What was your experience?
In the actual testing, I lunged a horse I didn't know, and he wouldn't stay out. He didn't know how to lunge. And so,
wow.
Yeah, and so you can't really show any of your skills if the horse won't stay out.
She kept running towards you?
Yeah, and coming in, and then you have to be, it's just like stretching a horse in long and low. You have 2 strides to encourage the horse to stretch down and then bring him back up. So just imagine that horse coming in at me and the horse going out, and then the horse, you have to, and then you have to be telling them what you're looking for, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
I
remember.
And you have to show a difference. You have, whether you're working on, you're working on the training pyramid, so you have to maintain a steady tempo the entire time. So if the horse is coming in and out, you can't do that. The horse isn't balanced. Then you have to show, are you working on suppling the horse? What is the purpose of the lunging, right? Are you suppling him? Did you supple him? Is he on contact? So what is this purpose of, it's not about wearing them out. It's exactly what we're working on in the riding. And so how do you do that when you're watching him and lunging and you're tripping over the lunge line and it's going everywhere? You can't. You just can't.
Now, I remember them being very particular in the lunging about the equipment. And what I mean is the type of lunge whip you use, the type of lunge line you use. Now, were there options on the type of side reins used, or were you expected to show how to use? Because a lot of people don't understand. There's a couple different types of lunge. There's different lunge equipment, but there's types of side reins discussed in the lunging manual. So were you just expected to kind of know how to use one, or?
Yeah, the side reins with the donuts it is really what they wanted. Yeah.
Okay.
Not other variations, no.
They talked about the sliding side reins, the German sliding side reins, not a German martingale, but the sliding side reins. That's in the. I
think there are 3 types, but really in the testing, it was more stressed on the side reins with the donuts.
And you needed to have your equipment with you and bring it with you, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And various forms on how to attach the lunge line, how to put the cavesson on, how the reins should be tied, and it's different for lunging a horse versus lunging a horse with a rider on him. There's different forms, so you need to know those different forms. But was I tested on it? No. What you present is what you're tested on.
Okay.
And ideally you should pick the safest one. Because there are options, you should, and even in the manual it says what is the safest one. That is the one you should pick, even though there are options.
That's actually a really good point you bring up. I think that's an excellent piece of information, because there is a ton of different options presented in their lunging manual, and I think it can be a little overwhelming when you look at it. So
yeah, it is.
When were you tested on, let's say just lunging the horse, okay, not take the rider out of the equation. Were they really paying attention as to how you connected the side reins and, you know, like what the steps were, or did they just say go out and figure it out?
No.
Was there an order, a procedure, a proper procedure, order
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and putting it off and
How you put it on, how you take it off, how you switch from one side to the other is very important. And you should know how to do that and whether it's safe or not. I mean, that's part of it. Yeah.
And do they expect you to explain why you're doing it a certain way?
No, not unless they ask specifically. No, you should be I mean, if you're having a problem, I'm sure the faculty would quiz you on it, but you should be past that. You know, you should be working the horse, not, you know, it should already be presented.
Sure. Interesting. That's interesting. You had quite a challenging lunging experience for your test. That would be, I think just knowing that I had always heard the lunging was incredibly difficult. And I think having heard it so many times, I think I would be going into the testing just absolutely terrified at the lunging, because you're going in there not knowing the horse and what they know. And, you know, I had heard stories that if your lunge line hits the dirt in the testing, you fail, you're done, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true anymore.
I don't know, because my lunge line didn't touch the ground. I think that's a good question for the faculty. But I think
let's back up and say, why would that be potentially an instant fail?
You've lost the contact of the
and unsafe.
Of the horse. Yeah,
right?
it's unsafe. You could trip over the lunge line, or the horse could trip. Yeah, it's not a good thing.
You know, it just brings back up that you know, you've said a few times, it's always talking about doing things safely. They definitely, you know, really come back to, is this safe? Are you presenting a safe situation? You know, you're first aid and CPR trained because, you know, these are live animals, and, you know, you need to be able to respond as a first responder in that regard. And then, yeah, I really appreciate that they constantly stress safety, because there's just so many potential accidents involving horses. So,
and even if you do everything right, there can be an accident. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, we are dealing with animals and it's life. It happens. So, you know, you can't stress safety enough.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, again, I guess I'm circling back to, is there any final thoughts on the training and first level portion of the testing? Anything you can think of from that? That's your first experience with the program. That's that initial first testing experience. It's the easiest levels to test at, so to speak.
It's scary. It's hard. Go do it.
Yeah.
That's my day. Just go do it. You know, jump. And if you fail, you'll learn something. And if you don't, you'll just go on and be a part of the program.
Right.
You know your basics. That's it. Know the material, know what you want, you know, the training, the pyramid of training. Yeah.
So I know this wasn't your experience, but let's talk about failure.
Yeah.
What does the university, what does the USDF do? Say you've gone through the workshops, you've done the pre-cert, you go to the testing and something happens, do you get to go through the full testing? Or if what I was just talking about, let's say you had a bad lunging experience and your lunge line hit the dirt, and do they stop you? Are you done for the weekend, or do they let you go through the whole thing before they tell you bad news? I mean, I know you don't know, but do they explain that to you?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I think you can probably go all the way through, and then they pull you aside and have a conversation. I think, because that's what happened with me. They you have a conversation at the end, whether you're passing or failing, and move on. I don't know. I think it's all individual.
Sure.
And then you can have a discussion about it and then go from there. And then you go to the next testing. And I think you can just test out. So like what if, because there's 6 parts. And if you fail one, I think you can just retake the one.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to test out all 6 of them. So if you're going along and you go until you fail and then you stop and then you have to, retake it at a different testing is my understanding.
Okay.
But you don't have to, let's say you passed the lunging and it was a riding thing you didn't. I think you can only just go back and do that.
Okay. But we definitely would say check it out with USDF for
Yeah.
because you never had to go through and retest. So
Yeah.
you're very fortunate to have success at your testing. So, but there are, I think there are people that will fail the initial, and it's like you said, it could just be their nerves got to them. They might know everything that they need to know to pass, but you've only got a short amount of time to, you're quizzed on something. You've got to come up with your answer. It's got to be concise. It's got to be safe, all that. And it just could be something simple like their nerves got them and they were speechless or, so, because I know a number of, people across the country have talked about having to go and retest and it's not easy, as you said, for sure. So let's say, okay, you've passed training in first level. So let's talk a little bit about the second level portion of the program. Is it very similar workshops, similar pre-certification?
Oh yeah. You have to do the same thing. You have to lunge the horse. You have to, I think we do.
I thought that was kind of a one and done at training in first level.
No, I had to lunge 2 people. So I'm sorry if I'm a little bit confused on it because I had the training in first as well as second level all in one weekend. So I'm pretty sure there was still lunging for the second one and then teaching 2 people and then riding 2 horses. So yeah, no, I'm pretty sure there was 2 lunging as well. No, it's not.
Okay.
It's at third and fourth level. You're done.
Okay.
I had to lunge 2 horses and I had to lunge 2 people. So wow. Yeah, it was a lot, and it was all in 3 days. So for training in first and second level. So it was the same format.
Okay. So did you do workshops, second level workshops, or not so much? I think it's a little harder to find.
I think training first and second is combined in the workshops as well. Because no, I didn't. I think it was just through second level were my workshops. So I did 2 sets, and then last year I wanted to test out for third and fourth level. So I held a third, fourth level workshop, and then a few months later I went to the testing site.
Sure. Because that's a little different than it's been a number of years since I organized. So I feel like it was different back when I organized, but I could be remembering it wrong because we had a full weekend. We had 8 participants, which is as much as we could take. And they all needed to do training in first. Yeah. They needed to get in. I think because we had a full 8, I don't think we had time to add in anything for second level. So that might be why I'm not really remembering it clearly.
Yeah, and I do remember you used to be able to test all the way out to fourth level.
Yeah.
And now they have made these different divisions, which I think was smart because it is I'm glad I went through it the way I did. And it was a lot. The first testing to test out through second level in one weekend was a lot. Yeah. It was very difficult.
Very, very long, exhausting weekend. So, Did you find there was a whole lot? Was the homework, we'll call it, or the preparation, was the homework portion considerably more difficult, about the same stuff, just obviously covering the higher level videos and some quizzes on eTrack or
I think, yeah, because we had to do the modules.
education tab?
Yep, we had to do the modules. Then we had a written test. And again, it was the same. It was true or false, multiple choice, and written. And then same thing, we had verbal. When we get there, verbals first. And then it was lunging. I'm sure it depends on the organizer for the testing, but lunging. And then it was like I would teach a first level rider at the beginning of the day, teach a second level rider at the end. Or actually, there might have been 4 things going on each day. So there wasn't a lot of downtime, which actually was perfect for me. Me with a lot of downtime is not good. If you're a person who likes downtime, then maybe you should only test out through one level at a time.
Sure. Yeah, if you need a break from the stress or something, that's understandable.
Yeah, I don't want to think about it. It's go,
sure.
go, go.
Was the test, the written a portion of the testing, did that all happen at the testing, or was there stuff that you logged in and did that online before you even went to the actual person testing?
Yep, that was logged in, I don't know, a couple weeks, maybe a month before. I had to have the modules done and the written. And you have a short window. Kathy sends you an email. You need to organize yourself. You need to get a hotel. You need to make arrangements for your horses. You need to take the test. So yeah.
Okay. So yeah. Okay. We did a pre-cert, but we never hosted a testing. So it's been a number of years, but I feel like they had, and like in the morning, or maybe it was like the evening, the night before the very first full day, met in I think we just had a classroom somewhere. It was probably in the hotel or something. And I feel like they kind of were given a printout of like the mock test back then, which would, and printed to kind of fill out and do, but I could be remembering that wrong. But I believe eTrack is now called like the education tab, or it's something along those lines. But yeah, again, you would be logged in under your USDF member number and can get all that done in advance. Because I feel like that was part of hosting an exam or a pre-cert, is it was like you needed 2 full days plus like an evening the night before it all started to do like all the written exam stuff. Because I think back then it wasn't done online, so that helps because you mentioned it's 2 full days or 3 full days.
Yeah,
very long experience, and then trying to add the stress of a written exam as well as the oral examination is pretty tough. And like I said, I could very well be remembering that wrong. That could have been when they did some of the oral quizzing too, for the certification. So I could be remembering, it has been 6, 7, 8 years at least. So, so anything on second level, my question is, because things have changed since I helped organize, you said you can go to a testing facility, and pretty much if they can make it work, you can test at any level. Was like, how hard is that for USDF? Is that part of the reason why it is quite difficult to coordinate these testing facilities? Is it's a lot easier to find training in first level horses than it is to start finding horses that can be utilized for this program and the testing. Second level, confirmed second level horse, confirmed third level horse, confirmed fourth level horse. You were expected to bring at least one, correct? And were you encouraged and asked to bring as many as possible, or did they just have the horses? How did that work?
For my first testing, training through second, I brought 4 horses.
Wow.
And a lot of the other instructors also use my horses. And I was lucky that at the barn it was held at, the organizer had a lot of school horses that we could all use, and it was a lot of her students. So we were very, very lucky. But I brought 4 horses to that one. And then the second testing in Omaha, I only brought 2 horses. So I brought 2 with me.
Now, was that at their request, or because are you allowed to bring more than one, or are you only supposed to be bringing at least one?
I think I don't know if it's a requirement. I mean, because at the first testing, there was a lady that was flying in from Washington, so she
Sure.
couldn't bring any horses.
Sure. We had that experience having
Yeah.
horses because people couldn't bring any.
Yeah, and I had the organizer ask me if I would bring horses, and I said, well, I have a 4-horse, I'll bring 4 horses.
Sure.
So it wasn't, I never felt any requirement to bring 4 horses. She just asked, and I was like, sure, I'll help out.
I think you're in a very unique place to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't think people volunteer their horses a lot. And then the second one, I just brought two horses that I trained, and I was able to use those horses.
That's fantastic. So moving on to the final, the 3rd and 4th level. Now those are combined into one testing, similar to the training and first. Is that correct?
Yep. And I had to ride 2 horses, and then I had to teach 2 people. And obviously 1 horse was a 3rd level horse and 1 was a 4th level horse. And then same thing with the 2 people that I taught, 1 3rd, 1 4th.
So as you mentioned earlier, no more lunging at this point, and it's just riding and teaching.
Yep.
And that was all. You just had to ride 1 at each level and teach 1 at each level. Is that normal? Is that pared down was that like something happened, or is that's the test?
That's the test. Yeah, that's normal. Yeah, and we also have to have the oral. So it's basically 5 exams, and each of those are 45 minutes. So I mean, that's a lot.
So did the oral exam, I assume they kind of combined 3rd and 4th level questions, just went at you for 30 to 45 minutes? Okay.
Yep.
It wasn't like you're with one examiner being asked 3rd level questions and then with one examiner being asked 4th level questions. It was game on for the whole
No, it was game on for 30 minutes of questions.
And now, I guess that's something I never asked for the previous levels. How many examiners are there at these testings? Is there 1, 2, 3, 4?
There was 2 at mine.
Okay, always 2.
Yep. And then also there sometimes is an individual that's trying to become faculty. So they also will quiz you. So that's happened, I don't know, 3 times I've had, and in the workshops. So that's fun too, because then they are also being tested and they're testing you. So you get double the fun. So know your stuff.
Yeah, we actually, when I organized, we had an apprentice faculty person, and I just loved her because I guess this is something we didn't discuss. So at the workshops, at least for the lower levels, there was 3 workshops. We had different faculty for each workshop.
Oh yeah, we did too. Yep.
Okay, so that's something we probably should bring up. So the nice thing was the consistency, at least for our PI, which are the participating instructors, is what you call PI. Kathy was her name, and she was our apprentice faculty, and they all bonded with her. And she was so kind and so sweet, and really took these all these participants under her wing, and they all had her email, and I think there was probably quite a bit of correspondence there. But it was nice because she was the consistency between myself and the participants. We all became this, you know, they knew me as the organizer, they knew each other as the participants, and so it was kind of you get that leaning on each other experience.
Yep.
That was really quite nice to have the apprentice faculty in there, and that was a very rewarding experience to have a faculty apprentice there.
Yeah.
So helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was quizzed as well by the faculty members.
Yep.
And it was neat. She explained some theories and things when we were in the classroom kind of setting, you know, looking at videos or a PowerPoint, whatever it was. It was neat because the faculty would explain something, and then the apprentice, the faculty would ask our apprentice, anything else you want to say, and she would kind of expound upon it and maybe in a different way. And so it really, I know the participants kept saying it's really great to have her because, you know, the faculty member explains it one way, and then she kind of fully, you know, forms that circle and kind of, you know, explains it a little different and like, well, and don't forget this and don't forget this, and kind of forms that full picture. So, really a neat experience. Is that something you're ever interested in, is becoming a faculty member? Now, there are different levels of faculty. There are those who teach the workshops.
Yep.
And then there are examiners who can also teach the workshops. So there's levels. And then if you were to become faculty, how does that work? Do you just suddenly you're faculty for all levels, or do you work your way up the levels as a faculty, much in the way you do as a certified instructor?
To be honest, I don't know. I have thought about it, but that's as far as I've went.
I'm nodding my head because I recall our faculty, our apprentice was trying to become faculty at training and first level.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very similar to the certified instructor. You have to become faculty at the lowest level first and then work your way up.
Yeah, that would make sense.
The judges, first you become an L, a learner, and then you become a small R and a large R. So very similar program. So which I think is, you know, really, it speaks to how difficult and how much work this program is, but how much knowledge comes along with it.
A lot.
You learn and work your way up the level. So that's definitely. So back to the third and fourth level workshops and obviously the testing. You didn't do a pre-cert in there. You just went from the workshops to the testing. At this point, you kind of had an idea of how it was going to go, right? Uh-oh. Are we losing you?
Yep, you're losing me. I'm sorry. My phone is like at 15% and people are now calling me. But you
got a charger?
Sorry, what did you say? You asked about third level, and now I can't hardly hear you.
Do you need to get a charger?
No.
Hang on. I'm typing.
Okay, I don't have a place to, no, I don't have a place to plug it in. I can hear you. It happened because of someone called me. So okay. I'm on my phone, so we may need to wrap it up soon. I'm sorry.
That's all right. We're at an hour and 44 minutes, so we can wrap this up. So I just want to remind anybody that's listening in the audience, if you have questions, go ahead and post in the live chat so we can see if there's you know, anything that you're interested in hearing from Megan before her phone dies.
Sorry, guys. The fact that we're doing this is amazing that I even got on the live thing. So thank you so much, Steffi.
Yeah, and thank you, Dawn, for that comment. Just showing. You know, so we'll get back until we see any comments. So what I had said was you went from the workshops at third and fourth level and then went right into testing. There was no pre-certification. You just, at that point you knew what you were in for.
Yep, I knew. Yeah, no, it was good. I don't know if there is a pre-certification for third and fourth level, but no, didn't take it.
All right. So let's quick look at the future. Now, you mentioned this takes you through the national level, and they are working on the FEI program. It's still, I think, somewhat in infancy. There are, I believe, been some workshops for at the FEI levels. How does that work? Is it very similar? You start at Pre-St. George, or?
Yep. I've already filled out the application for the small tour. They want to do one for the Grand Prix, but it's not available. And they had a workshop. I do believe there are a few instructors that have tested out through FEI, which is super exciting.
Is it one test, or is it kind of a couple of levels of testing?
I think there's just one. I think it's just Pre-St. George.
Okay.
Yeah.
They haven't developed, so that is truly in its infancy. They haven't
It is.
beyond that yet.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, well, it's difficult to make your way up through even the 3rd and 4th level tests. So, do you have an idea? You were the first certified instructor in your state, correct?
Through 4th level. Yep. I do believe there is one at training in the 1st level. So there's only 2 of us in the state of Wisconsin, which is super exciting.
Congratulations. Congratulations. That's an achievement to be one of 2 and the only one all the way through the national level testing. That's an accomplishment for sure. With the virus, it's hard to know what the plans are. Obviously, everything's on hold, but in a perfect world, you would be looking at trying to go through the FEI program in the next 2 years.
What I had wanted to do is actually put on the workshop this year at my farm for FEI. I think that is not going to happen. I'm going to see if there is going to be any workshops for next year, and if there is, I'm going to participate.
Or host? Are you going to possibly host otherwise?
Yeah. If it doesn't work out in the competition season, I'm gonna host at my farm in Wisconsin. And then if there is a testing, I would test out. So, and if I would just have to ask Kathy what the options are. And so I would hope that anyone that's thinking about the FEI workshop, which I've encouraged and asked other instructors who have tested out through 4th level, that there is interest. So yeah, we want to get that ball rolling, but I think it really depends on what's going on in the world today.
For sure, for sure. Do you know off the top of your head how many certified instructors there are who have gone through all the way through 4th level? Approximate numbers across the U.S.?
Honestly, I have no idea. I'm
not sure. Yeah,
I would say under 200.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Obviously, USDF website is gonna tell you that, and I think you're divided out by region. I think, correct?
I don't know. I think you can look through regions. You can look through states. You can look through levels.
Thanks for the comment, Jenny. Just giving a shout out there and a thank you from one of our viewers here. Appreciate the comment. Again, anybody have any more questions? I'd say we probably still have about 10 minutes before we need to really wrap it up. I think 2 hours is pretty good.
You have 10%.
Okay, we might have less than 5 minutes. We're starting to burn through it. So
yep, got 10%, people. It started at 80.
We should point out we're both wearing USDF swag. I have my it's actually pink and brown, and it's the big D for dressage. And then I have my logoed shirt, which is a little hard to see, but you've got some nice swag on there, my dear. It looks like
I do. Certified instructor. Certified instructor.
That's nice. Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Gotta wear the swag.
These came from USDF convention. You can get them at finals and stuff, but I picked mine up at conventions over the years because they're fun. It's fun to wear some fun swag, but I like I don't know if you can you see what color this is on my screen? It looks terrible, obviously, but
it doesn't look all that
pink.
pretty.
Yeah.
It looks brown.
It's the lighting. Well, it is. It's pink and brown, but you know.
Mine's blue.
Yeah. USDF blue.
Yay!
Yeah.
My favorite color.
So any before your phone totally dies, any final comments on your overall thoughts on the program? You know, and thank you again for this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I can't thank USDF enough. They certainly have shaped me as an instructor and organizing my lessons, which have helped all of my horses and all of my students. So, and all of the faculty that has been a part of USDF that have helped me throughout many years, 20 years. So I can't thank USDF enough for all that they've done for me. And if anyone is thinking about becoming an instructor and wants help, I'm more than happy to help anyone. If you don't, go do it. You know, become certified. I think it's very important for all professionals in our industry.
So, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, you want to quick plug your website, how you would prefer them to reach you?
Sure. You can call 608-445-8531. You can email me, Lindinhof LLC at gmail.com. You can check out my website. It's old. Sorry, guys. I'm always working. I'm working on updating it. It's LINDINHOF.com. You can check me out on Facebook under Megan McIsaac or Lindinhof. So I'm out there. Feel free to reach out, and more than happy to help you or get you in contact with whoever you need to.
Is that correct, what I've got here?
That is.
All right, good stuff.
Thank you, Steffi.
Hey, thank you, Megan. I really do appreciate your time. We're actually going to be able to wrap this up in just under 2 hours. So I did include some of Megan's contact information below in the description box. I do plan on, this will be published to you, my YouTube channel here under Opinionated Horsewoman. You can go back and you'll be able to view it at any time, bring it up. Thank you to everybody supporting the channel. If you want to support the channel, I hope that if you do watch this again, let the ads run. There will be advertisements that help support the channel. Again, Megan's contact information is what she just spoke at. At least her website is below in the description. And Megan, if you want me to add any more of that detail, just shoot me an email and let me know what you want to add into the description box. That'll be out there. Okay. For when people can review this. But I really do appreciate you taking a couple hours with us tonight, live in here.
Well, thank you for the idea. I never would have done it if it wasn't for you. And thank you for being a part of the program. I mean, you're an organizer. You got it done and are encouraging us to get out there and do it. We couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much.
For all the organizers. And actually, you know, another shout out we should mention is to the people who volunteer their time, their horses, anything they do to contribute to this program. Again, big shout out to Kathy Robertson at USDF. She is absolutely amazing coordinator. It's a phenomenal job she does. So yeah, I believe in the program because I believe it contributes to the betterment of the sport. You know, and I know from attending the convention this last November, December in Savannah, Georgia, they are continuing to change the program. They are always looking to improve the program. They're looking at it now as almost more of an educational tool. They are really, really going to focus on educating, trying to, I think, run more workshops and provide more education to encourage people to get that robust bottom of the pyramid, you know, education, so they can learn more and eventually go through and test out, such as you have done. So I think there's a bright future. This program continues to be reevaluated and improved upon, and it's an exciting thing for our sport here in the U.S. Hopefully we will we'll get some Olympic riders going through this, people who are going through it at a young age that will eventually represent our country on our team at
Great.
you know, it may be not Olympics, but international. Hey, it's amazing, right? So
That's right.
well, thank you, lady. We're at about an hour and 55 minutes. Haven't really seen too many other questions. So appreciate everybody
All right.
who's come in here, and you'll have to throw your phone on the charger, Megan, but
All right. Thank you, Steffi.
I might hit you up for some more of these live chats. I'll try to come up with some ideas on things we can talk about.
All right. Let's do it.
All right.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great night. Thank you, Megan. Appreciate it. Talk to you later. Bye, Megan.
All right. We're on 5.
Yep. All right. Bye, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.